I'll call to order the April 2nd, 2025 Fishers Plan Commission meeting. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, roll call, please.
Yes. Mr. DeReamer. Mr. Fain.
Here.
Ms. Logan.
Here.
Mr. Peterson.
Here.
Mr. Moulter.
Here.
Ms. Stoller.
Here.
Mr. Richards. Ms. Jackson. Ms. Frazier. And Mr. Stevenson.
Here.
Thank you. We do have quorum.
Thank you. We have a quorum to conduct business tonight. The first agenda item is the approval of the March 5th, 2025 minutes. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please use the voting sign aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I abstain, I wasn't here.
We have one abstention. The motion does carry. Thank you. The first agenda item is case number RZ-25-1, Garrido Neighborhood, a consideration of a rezone of 9.15 acres from R2 to PUDR, known as the Garrido PUD. And we have Christy Cashin with the staff to present for us.
Yes, good evening. Christy Cashin, Senior Planner with the Planning Department. The project before you today is the rezone of the proposed Garrido residential development. The petitioner is proposing to rezone this property from R2 residential to PUDR. The subject site is located at 11052 Cumberland Road and consists of 3 adjacent lots. Shown here is a map with the zoning of the subject parcels and the surrounding area. The Garrido properties are surrounded by single-family homes zoned R2 and R3 residential to the north, PUDR Legends at Geist to the south and to the east, and R3 residential to the west. Here is the concept plan for the proposed project. Pulte Homes, the petitioner, is requesting to rezone to PUDR for a residential development that will be known as the Garrido PUD. The development would include 21 single-family lots with 2 common areas and a common area buffer yard adjacent to existing homes. The Fishers 2040 plan lists the future land use as subdivision residential. The purpose of this category is for single-family detached residential to low density, ranging from 2 to 4 dwelling units per acre. For larger developments, a variety of densities within the permitted range is encouraged to allow for more diversity in housing types. A neighborhood meeting was held on March 13th to discuss the project with neighbors. The biggest concern from the meeting were regards to drainage on the south side of the development, the buffer yard around the development, and traffic. The City of Fishers engineers reviewed the drainage along the south side of the development and determined the drainage slope behind the homes along Deering Street looked natural and adequate for the area. The staff shared the information with surrounding HOAs, asking homeowners to reach out to stormwater engineers if or when if they were experiencing issues. Staff worked with Pulte Homes to solidify plans for the buffer yard. All boundaries of the property shall provide a common area strip with a minimum of 10 feet in width, and that shall consist of 3 canopy trees at a minimum of 2-inch caliper, 4 evergreen trees at a minimum of 6 feet in height at planting, and that is all per every 100 linear feet. Any existing trees within this required common area which are healthy, non-invasive, and are at least 3 inches in caliper may be preserved, and if preserved, shall qualify toward the planting requirements. The entrance to the development will align with any openings in the landscape median that is planned for the future Cumberland Road expansion. The City of Fishers Fire Department has approved one access point for this project. We received one public comment regarding this rezone. This should have been forwarded to you earlier this week. This is from Jensen and Judy Godfrey of 10019 Niagara Way. Their biggest concerns were a decline in property value, aesthetic concerns, environmental impact, and community health and well-being. Staff has a positive recommendation to the Plan Commission. While this request does match the 2040 comprehensive plan, excuse me, I had that written wrong. It does match the comprehensive plan, and we do have requests that there's a positive recommendation. Do you have any questions for staff at this time?
I have just a quick question. Can you go back to your last slide, because I think it said it does
Sure.
not.
It does say that.
Okay.
So disregard what that says. I apologize. I can get something up there after Rex's presentation if you need me to. I apologize.
Thank you. Any questions for the staff from my colleagues? Thank you. At this time, we will hear from the petitioner.
Okay.
Good evening, Rex Ramage, Pulte Homes, 11595 North Meridian Street, also a proud resident of the City of Fishers. Here tonight, thank you, Christy, for the very detailed overview of the Gerardo PUD. I'll try not to duplicate much of anything that Christy had mentioned, but just have a little zoomed out aerial here. You can see where we're situated between 116th and 106 on the east side of Cumberland Road. Already discussed the comprehensive plan. 2 to 4 units per acre. 21 lots on 9 acres is about, 2.3-ish units per the acre, so we're on the lower end of that spectrum. Concept plan, as previously discussed, we have a very large setback from Cumberland Road, and then all of the lots on a single cul-de-sac design. We are aware and have been working with the city as it relates to the Cumberland Road improvements, and understanding the timeline of construction of that. There's a mechanism in the PUD ordinance for us not to duplicate any road infrastructure improvements that would otherwise be necessary, and should it be deemed by the city that they would rather have a contribution for improvements by us for what we would otherwise be required to do, we would certainly be willing to do that to help facilitate anything as far as Cumberland Road's reconstruction. Some illustrative elevations here on the page. Again, these homes are going to be, there's a ranch plan at 2,300 square feet. There are 4 two-story plans that are going to be ranging anywhere from 2,600 to 3,300 square feet. And that is the base, so if there's a basement or any other add-ons, that square footage would go up. We are estimating these homes would sell in the range of $500,000 to $650,000. And everything else, I believe, has already been mentioned. I did want to highlight that we did have a neighbor meeting back on March 13th. There was about 21 people that were there, plus a council member, plus staff. Had a very productive conversation. And so I think everything in the ordinance reflects some of the items that we discussed at that neighbor meeting. I do recognize a lot of the faces here in the audience tonight, so I will conclude my presentation, and I'll be available for you guys should you have any questions in advance of opening the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Pete, I'm sorry, Brad?
Rick, you're zoned R2, how come you're not developing in R2, which is our zoning ordinance?
But before you answer that, Rex, all commissioners do remind to turn on your microphone. Thank you.
Thank you. You want me to repeat that microphone? Rick, you're zoned R2, how come you're not developing R2, which is our zoning ordinance?
There are a handful of issues related to this site as it relates to the geometry of this site, where we could not be compliant with the straight R2 zoning. Some of those things are, the cul-de-sac length. Some of those things are related to the lot sizes and the setbacks, which you're aware of. We talked about that at the city council introduction. And then a handful of things that are above and beyond what's in the ordinance today that the city would not otherwise have. So we feel that there's a good trade-off based on doing a PUD ordinance.
The side setback is 15 to 10. Why are you doing 7 side setback?
We discussed this at city council, Brad. This 7 feet between side yards is a very standard and acceptable
It's
way.
not standard in our ordinance.
There are a lot of developments in this community that have certainly less than 7, and I understand your personal preference and your concern about this item. However, I don't think that that's going to be a problem based on all the projects that the city has approved in recent years.
Britton Falls is a problem with your side setbacks, a tremendous problem forever. It'll never go away. So, yes, and you know I'm a proponent of following the ordinance, not developers changing the ordinance to less and less and less. And I'm sorry, I'm elected to represent the citizens, not to represent developers to allow them to make more money. The side setback is 15 or 10. R2 is 15, R3 is 10. All of your neighbors are an R2 or an R3. This should not be developed in anything less than an R2 or an R3, with the side setbacks, the front setbacks, the width of the lots. To honor and respect your neighbors, that's what it should be, an R2 or R3, nothing else.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Brad, for your comments. Any other questions from the board pertaining to the petitioner's presentation?
I have a question.
Yes, Kim?
To your comment, are you saying they're only going to be 7 feet off the curb? Is that the
No,
setback? where you're-
between house to house.
Side, it's only 7 feet between homes,
7 from the home to the lot line, so 14 feet.
for between homes?
Total.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thanks for asking.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, I will open the public hearing for this matter. If there's anyone from the public who wants to address this matter, please come to the podium. I'll give a few instructions before you come, though. We will limit your time for your presentation to 3 minutes, and we will request that if you've heard someone else make the same comment that you agree with, you can indicate that during your presentation, but you don't have to go into the elaboration as it relates to that. We want to give everyone an ample opportunity to share today and also keep it as efficient and effective as possible. So with that, if you have any presentation you want to make, please address the podium, approach the podium. Please share with us your name and your address. Thank you.
Hi there. My name is Michael McMahon. I'm going to try to go fast with some bullet points and reserve a little bit of my time for, we have a hydrogeologist with us to talk about some of the water flow issues. I've lived here for 15 years. I've lived in this particular house for about 13 years. I have severe PTSD. My therapist at the VA told me that I needed to have a nice, wooded, serene area right behind my home. You can't see it now, but my home butts up to this potential development within about 12 feet. They built my home really far back off. If they level this, they're going to cut down every tree, every shrub in the process, and I'm going to be 20 feet from the back door of these people on the other side. Point number one. Also, I'm not certain that this body right now has the ability to rezone this. IC 3643 specifically says they have to annex the property before rezoning, so you might want to revisit that also. There's also going to be untold ecological harm. We have deer, bunnies, raccoons, possum that we enjoy in our backyard. Their habitats will be completely destroyed. There's just no way around that. I have an ecologist that's working on that right now that I'll present those findings to you when they're done. Also, this shouldn't just be about tax dollars, right? That house probably pays $30,000 a year in taxes. You're going to get about $300,000 a year in taxes once it's completely developed. That shouldn't be the only reason that we develop property in Fishers. At that, it's very brief. At a minimum, I think Pulte should be required before this body rezones, just as he was saying, into this PUD development. They need to do a very extensive hydrological study and present it to the board, separate from the city's presumptively automatically assumed allowance for it. So that should be a requirement for Pulte to do that at the very minimum. Finally, I would say if you're going to approve it, there should be some allowance for privacy for our addition. There should be a berm, there should be fences, there should be trees. It should protect our privacy from what it has already been for this amount of time. And if that's okay, I'm going to give the rest of my time to Jim Carr, who is a geological hydrologist, and he's going to present something.
And Jim, before you stop, commence your presentation, we'll give you the allotted 3 minutes, so you don't have to just utilize the remaining balance of Mr. McMahon's.
So I have 3 minutes?
Yes, you do.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me here. The proposed development is at the southern tip of a ridge that sits between Okay, I'm sorry. Jim Carr, I'm with Hydrophase. I'm out of Indianapolis, and Mike contacted me about assisting them in evaluating the hydrological risk involved in putting the homes up on that higher elevation there. Hydrophase. Sorry. Okay. I was going to point out that, as we all know, the development is at a higher elevation. It's higher, the proposed development is higher than the residences to the south, the east, and the west. There's quite a bit of elevation difference, anywhere from 5 to 15 feet, based on my evaluation of the topographic maps and of the air photos. That goes towards Deering Street in the south and Cumberland Street in the west, and a further drop as you go further south. The presence of a new development, if it's built, will necessitate removing the vegetative cover, large trees and shrubs that have up to now been anchoring the soil, and concurrently there will be increase in impervious surfaces, especially given the high density of the proposed new development. As a result, the amount of runoff, erosion, sedimentation from storm events over that significant elevation drop will increase. Now, the construction activity itself could also enhance runoff, erosion, sedimentation, and so forth. During excavation, water-bearing sand layers are typically found within glacial till formations, could be exposed and create additional seepage and drainage problems for lower-lying properties that surround that proposed new development on 3 sides. Now, it's not really uncommon to have these situations arise with new construction with respect to their lower-lying neighbors, where runoff causes ponding or seepage or seeping into basements and otherwise waterlogging the soil. And that is evident in a lot of cases where there's been even just a few feet difference between the new development and the residences, and this is anywhere from 5 to 10, 15 or more feet. Also, some of the areas to the south, all the areas to the south of this development are in this V-shaped area that's tucked into between Sand Creek and Mud Creek, which are designated flood zones, and the actual 100-year floodplain boundary laps up onto a lot of the properties in that area. So they already are at risk for high flooding, as some of the people here have told me some of their backyards get flooded, ponding water after a rainfall event, and sometimes Cumberland Road has had to be cut off or closed because of the high standing water there after major events. So there's added to that, there's the fact that you could get lawn chemical runoff, motor vehicle runoff from the high ground along with just the water. So to conclude, I'd say without specific design plans for the proposed new development, it's difficult to further quantify the risk involved. And before any rezoning is granted, we'd ask for more details of the site design and stormwater drainage plans be made available for review. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Nathan Kellner. I am the president of the Spyglass Falls HOA, which is the neighborhood just to the north of this proposed development. My address is 11221 Whitewater Way. I'm here to represent the residents of our neighborhood who have concerns about this project. I'd like to start off by saying, as an HOA, it was mentioned that communication was happening with us prior to and throughout this process. That is absolutely not the case. In fact, we didn't even find out as an HOA about this project until after the last city council meeting. That may be evident by the fact that there was only one comment that was put in following that meeting. No links or any other communication were ever provided to our HOA or to the broader neighborhood, looking for any form of comment whatsoever to address these concerns. I am aware there were letters that were sent out about the last city council meeting. Those letters that were sent out after multiple junk mail letters from Pulte, to the extent that almost every single individual that we talked to completely disregarded that letter and threw it away without opening it, expecting it to be further junk mail. We don't know if this was on purpose, but we honestly would have liked much more transparency about this project and overall communication. Honestly, there was none from the city and none from Pulte. In regards to the largest concerns of the residents from our neighborhood, I believe that the representatives from Pulte mentioned that there would be a setback of 10 feet that would be common area between the neighborhoods, trying to preserve the trees and planting in more trees if possible. That is absolutely a great start. The largest concern that we've heard from our residents is noise. We've been in an existing neighborhood for quite some time now. There's not been any new construction around us for well over a decade. So to try to sell the residents of our neighborhood that they are now going to be living with a year to 2 years of constant banging starting at 7 a.m. with trees getting cut down and wood chippers going nonstop, that has been the largest concern that we've heard. If this proposal is accepted by the city, we would ask that everything be done to minimize how early that construction actually starts. I believe city ordinances allow for that to start at 7 a.m. We would ask that it would at least be pushed to 8 a.m. Just to give people some type of piece of living in their own existing homes. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Is there a way to show something on a screen here, or is that not possible?
We can pull up the concept plan, but that's the only thing we can share on the screen.
Okay. Well, if you can see from here, I just want to show this picture
Yeah.
before I start.
Can you please, yeah,
Yeah, sorry.
please state your name and your address, please.
Yes, my name is Jana Hancock. I'm the Legends at Geist HOA president, including Spyglass Hill that's impacted by this proposed project. This is the picture I want everybody to see, just as we reference that. I know it's hard.
And you can approach if you want to share that.
What you're seeing here is one of the backyards, just so you have an understanding from our side of things of what we see. Your house is on this side? The house is on this side, and this fencing there is where. That's correct. That's the back of the lot line that would be facing some of our neighbors. Correct. Yep. Two or just?
No, just us.
Okay, so like I said, I am Jana Hancock, Spyglass Hills HOA president. As you know, this rezone is the first step needed for Pulte to move forward with the project as presented. They stated at our neighbor meeting they would not be interested in pursuing this project if it is not 21 homes. While we understand that larger areas of land become available in our city, we can expect that there will be an increased density, we know that. But the 21 homes, the way they have been proposed, is too many on this particular property. While this is a meeting to determine if a rezone is appropriate, I think it's important to understand the impact 21 homes on this lot have for several of our neighbors, knowing that once they own the land, Pulte owns land, we would have minimal opportunities to ask for what we feel are appropriate measures to protect our neighbors before it goes to council with this proposed plan as is. As Jim mentioned, there are issues with the direction of the water flow in this area, and there is already erosion that exists in the transition area from the Cumberland property to Deering neighbors. That's what I showed you there. They are not able to get anything to grow in this area because erosion is already an issue. For drainage and for privacy, we would like to see whoever purchases this lot add a berm between the property line and the intended swale that Rex presented at the neighbor meeting. However, Pulte has said they would not be able to make that accommodation the way they have things mapped out currently. We would not like to see this project approved as presented, and consideration for this request honored in any future developments. We also would like to see a change in the setbacks to have the homes be closer towards the center of their own neighborhood and not in the middle of the lot or towards the back. This berm with a fence on top would also mitigate privacy concerns in addition to saving as many mature trees as possible. We would like to see Pulte make a commitment to neighbors to replant as many trees as possible. This option would give almost 20 feet of additional buffer area between our homes, their homes and ours. In the first reading of this proposal at council, Councilwoman Tiffany Divelson, a neighbor, commented that many of her clients are looking for ranch homes with main floor masters. There is only one of those 5 options in this development. If all the homes are not as tall, the less privacy measures would be needed to mitigate these issues, given that the height would already be about 12 feet higher than the Deering homes. Pulte has said that this project doesn't make sense financially for them to be less than 21 homes at around $500,000, but that does not mean that another developer couldn't be excited by building 10 homes for selling them for just over $1 million with larger estate-style lots, which is not as readily available in our community. There are plenty of 2-story homes in our inventory. A development like that would give less total eyeballs looking into the neighbors' backyards and allow for more space and additional trees to stay, and the hydrological impacts minimized, and would ask that you consider all of this when making a determination on the rezone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Michael Eller, 9830 Deering Street. I'm the third house in off of Cumberland. I was walking in my backyard this afternoon, and I am 6 foot tall, and I look straight at the property line this way. So I just want to say that's an item that we're all concerned about, is the height of the property to ours. The other one is that this gentleman brought up was, I'm 6 foot tall, and this is 6 wide, and this is 6 wide, so that's 12 feet. So my question again was the spacing between the houses is not very much. I play out at the Golf Club of Indiana and Pulte build homes out there, and they have had significant drain issues, and you can check with the Golf Club of Indiana. His name's Jeff Rubenstein. They have had significant drainage issues out there because when they built it, they pushed the land up. It was flat soybeans and corn. They pushed the land up, built the houses up here. Therefore, the water that used to drain into the cornfields and in soybeans now come onto the golf course and are causing floodings on holes number 7 and number 12 and number 13. I can quote you on that. Okay, but again, I'm going to go back to, I understand things are going to happen. We're going to be building things. But this gentleman here never presented exactly and told us at the meeting at Ironwood what exactly is the distance from that house to this house. And my concern too was the size of the driveway. Now, I live on Deering Street, and we just had a fire truck go down the street. Now, somebody was parked in front of my neighbor's house, and there were also many police cars going down. They only had 1 lane to get in there. And so my concern is if you have 21 houses and you have 2-car garages, plus another one or so they're gonna have about 50 cars coming out on Cumberland. And we all know what an issue Cumberland Road is to make a left turn, especially this morning when I tried to make a left turn. It's very significant amount of traffic coming down Cumberland. I understand we're going to get a parkway, we're going to have cuts in, but that's an extra, I'm going to say 42 cars that are going to be turning left or right on Cumberland. That is an issue with us on Deering Street coming through. Again, I'm going to go back to, they're asking for special zoning on the distance between the houses that is different than ours, which doesn't make any sense at all. He would have to get that approved, if I understand correctly what was just said, to have this special come about. Just because it's Pulte doesn't mean you have to do it. Listen to the people who live in this neighborhood. He doesn't live in this neighborhood. It's not going to affect him. It's going to affect us. Thank you very much. Mike Eller, 9830 Deering Street. Stop by anytime, look at the property yourself, go into the property and look at it with your own eyes. Don't take this map. This doesn't do it well.
Are you a scratch walker? Are you a scratch walker?
Public hearing.
Yeah. Sir, you can.
No, he's my neighbor. I'm going to listen to him.
Okay.
We need it on the microphone if we're going to speak.
Sir.
All right. So my name's Barkley Grayson. I live at 9962 Deering Street. I have lived there since 1998. As several of these folks have said, the elevation change from my property to the property in question is at least 6 feet. I'm not a tall guy, as you can tell. It's way over my head, and it gets bigger as we go from west to east. And I would like to, I guess, double the concerns that have been written on the screen and that have been expressed here. There's a traffic issue, there's an irrigation issue, there's another issue which affects me twice, is I'm a business owner and my office is in the Sand Creek Overlook, so just north of our neighborhood. So I come out Deering Street, I drive north, and then I turn right again, right? So between me and there, you're talking about ingress and egress for 50 cars. This road is overtaxed, as has been seen in the last 2 to 3 weeks as 2 projects have been done on this road, a ditching project and a wiring project, where they've cut down to 1 lane. Traffic backed up. I counted. Getting from my house to my office took 5 minutes when it should take 1, okay? So as these guys are saying, unfortunately, somebody's house was affected by lightning the other night. Emergency vehicles could not get through our neighborhood, and our houses have the correct setbacks, as this gentleman pointed out, or spacing between. I'm sorry, not conversant on the nomenclature. But if you put the houses even closer together in this proposed neighborhood, it's going to absolutely put our first responders at danger because they cannot get through. So obviously I have a vested interest. My property is going to lose value if you approve this. My privacy is going to be compromised if you approve this. My drainage is going to be compromised if you approve this. So I beg you with all my heart, think about what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brian Suggs. My address is 11156 Ridgewater Circle in Walnut Hills. I actually serve on our HOA board. I'm not here to represent them. I'm representing myself. But I did want to make sure that I kind of followed up with what Nathan said. Walnut Hills HOA, and it just confirmed with our president as well that we were never notified. It's kind of just perceived as complete disregard to what we have to say in the matter. We also have concerns around runoff and improper drainage that would impact some of the neighbors that I have on Silver Tree Court, especially those with basements. I've had an issue with a basement on a previous home. It is a complete and utter nightmare. And I hope that there's serious consideration on this impact of how it will have on our neighborhood as well as Spyglass Falls. I also want to know if throughout this process, obviously they mentioned that it's going to be taken into consideration of the Cumberland Road expansion, but how is that being addressed? Again, we don't know. And then we also have significant concerns around the influx of traffic and how it's going to be addressed, given that our interest is currently, by this picture, it doesn't align, which poses serious entrance safety concerns. So I want to make sure that at least my comments were noted as well. That's all. And I do suggest denying this too. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Van Seadrecht, 10044 Deering Street. Thank you so much for having us tonight. My concerns are more about if you pass this property opportunity for the city of Fishers, our property taxes have gone up probably about 30%, 40% the last couple of years. And as a homeowner with a adjoining property, my fear is that after the property would be purchased, homes would be built, I have ramifications that may be occurring because of that, and I own that now across the board. And so I didn't know if there are any limitations or opportunities where the city will then take care of issues for homeowners from the beginning of the construction to the last house that has been built for up to maybe 5 years, because our homes are going to have to deal with whatever then has occurred. We all did due diligence in buying our houses. We did the due diligence to make sure that whatever things needed to be prepared and taken care of, that we were already ready to do that when we bought them. But so with this coming through, if you do pass it, that's my one concern, and hope that you would think about what that looks like for the neighbors that are there, and how we may be able to be benefited throughout this process. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Pam Hawkins. This is my husband, Mark Pufall. We live on 11015 Silver Tree Court in Walnut Hills. We're the very first lot, and our neighbor is this proposed development across the street. We've lived in our property for over 20 years. When we first had our home built, we had significant drainage issues, and a lot of it was because of the expansion of Spyglass, and all of that was coming into our home. I had many letters with the city, with the developers, with the builders, and back and forth, back and forth. Eventually, things were changed, so we weren't having flooding in our basement. This development presents serious, serious concerns for us. I hope that you take all of the expertise that's been presented to you earlier in consideration of this development. I know my husband has comments, but and he'll probably talk about our safety concerns. But I think it's also unfortunate that, you know, I believe in growth and development, but I believe that Fishers has taken it into excess. I mean, everywhere surrounding us, there is no nature anymore. One of the things that I loved was the fact that our owner across the street had 9.5 acres. Because like other people mentioned, we also have lots of wildlife, lots of ecological benefits in this area that are being destroyed, all surrounding our community of Walnut Hills. And I'll let Mark make some additional comments.
Thank you. I guess I would just like to maybe take it a step further with regards to some of the traffic issues that were mentioned. And a step further is that I think we have potentially a huge public safety issue with the proposed number of lots and the additional cars. Within a very, very small circle there, you have cars coming from a lot of different subdivisions trying to get onto Cumberland Road. And there have been many, many times when I've been out cutting my grass there at 11015 Silver Tree, where there has been an accident right in that area with regards to vehicles and everything else. So I think it's important that as government, the number one issue is public safety, in my opinion, and I think that should be the focus of this group. And I just wanted to echo a lot of the comments with regards to traffic, and a lot of those basically, in my opinion, involved directly towards the issue of public safety. And if you've lived where we have for the past 22 years and have tried to make that turn onto Cumberland Road, it's hard to imagine trying to do that with 21 more homes very, very close nearby. Thank you very much for your time.
And I would just add for that 10 seconds is that I hope that you don't think that this expansion of the road is going to solve our traffic issues. I mean, the traffic is growing exponentially. And, we had studies before in analysis of the expansion that, the bigger the roads are, the faster they go. Well, they already go way too fast. Thank you.
Thank you.
In closing, and unfortunately, I'm sorry, this comment's probably about 15 years too late, but a lot of people move to Fishers with regards to being in the suburbs. If I wanted to be in an urban area, I'd go live down in Indianapolis. But I chose Fishers and I chose basically the suburbs because I enjoyed having a nice yard, having some privacy and other things that generally come with the suburbs. And you know, maybe my vision isn't the same urban vision that you know, the current administration or government shares right now. But you know what? There's a lot of people here that probably moved here for the same reason. And if I wanted that urban feel, I'll go get a place in Indianapolis. Thank you.
At this time, I will close the public hearing. We will give the petitioner an opportunity to respond to what was presented.
Chair, if you don't mind, a couple of things from
Yes.
staff I'd like to, before Rex
Yeah, please.
starts.
Yes.
There was a note about annexation. Annexation has been filed on this project, so I would anticipate seeing that coming before City Council. I'm unaware of any mailings that Pulte sends out. Public notices are mailed by the City of Fishers, and that would be for this meeting here. So we mailed out 76 property public notices. That is in a white City of Fishers envelope, not to be confused with junk mail. The question about the noise ordinance is correct. It is from 7 a.m. To 10 p.m. For construction as well. And the point about what happens after this neighborhood, Councilor Dreamer was essential in our HOA transition plan. So one of those things happens is when the very last house is constructed, we have performance and maintenance bonds that come with that to extend the life of things like sidewalks and et cetera. So just wanted to mention a couple of those things that were.
Thanks, Ross. That was one of my
And Howard,
questions.
let me
Yeah, go
jump
ahead.
in here really quick, because it's just kind of a point of clarification, because, you know, we have to follow state statute when we're doing, you know, the notices out to public. So we do it the way the state says we have to do it. And I can guarantee you they are being done, although many like you guys, I see mail coming in and I toss it away and I miss stuff too. But I can guarantee you, okay, legally we were following state standard with notification to the homeowners. That much I can guarantee. Second, okay, this body is an advisory body. We do not have the final vote. This is where the public hearing occurs, where you folks in the audience get a chance to come in here and talk. There's a number of council people on here, which will be at the council meeting where the formal approval will take place. So to keep that in the wrap. So regardless of what happens here, it's gonna go to city council. If this body gives it an unfavorable reading, it's going to city council. If it gives it a favorable reading, it's going to city council. You're not gonna stop it from going to city council because the ultimate decision are those elected officials at city council. Just wanna make sure you guys are all aware of that. Lastly, is that when we have property rights, people have property rights, okay? We, by law, and I'm gonna look over here to my attorney and make sure I'm not misspeaking, right? We can't take away property rights, okay? So if you bought a house that had one house in the back of it and had a farm in the back of it with animals and elephants and zebras, okay, because you like being near a zoo, okay, if that person wants to sell that property and they go through all the proper things and get things done, we can't stop them from selling the property and taking away the property rights to develop that property in accordance with what goes on with the city code. Okay, that much I'm going to tell you. Brad brings up a good point on setbacks, and we can argue that separately. However, we can't take away property rights. If someone comes in here and builds there, we have to allow them those property rights in order to do so. So to some degree, we've got lanes that we must follow, right, when we're up here. So just FYI for everybody else, you may not like it, okay, and I get what you're saying, but I want to make sure we have that kind of basis of understanding, which is happening here at this body. And if I misspoke, please tell me.
Now, without this plan. Well, within the R2 code.
I would like to ask staff a few things. If I'm correct, this will be going through, I'd like to ask staff a few things. If I'm correct, this will be going through TAC, and our police, our fire, you know, all safety personnel will have an opportunity to look at this infrastructure, to make sure that they have the capabilities of getting in to this neighborhood if that is needed. Is that correct?
That is correct. I will say, though, that the width of the right-of-way in this neighborhood is consistent with the city's right-of-way width. And so what that means is that we build, I believe it's a 33 or 35 foot wide amount of pavement, which is enough for 2 lanes of traffic. And what we typically do not do is do no on-street parking, allowing the neighborhood to park on the street as they see fit. That does come up in some issues where people are parking on both sides. It does create a 1 lane. So if that is direction that you guys have, we can provide more feedback on that. But this is a standard size width of road to city standards. But to answer your question, which I don't think I did, was this would go in front of TAC before our EMS.
Okay.
Any further questions for the staff before we allow the petitioner to respond? Please proceed.
Thank you. Again, for the record, Rex Ramage, Pulte Homes. I have about 3 pages of notes, so bear with me. I may not get everything in the right order, but I want to try to make sure I address as much as I can. Since we landed on the road issue, the right-of-way width for Deering Street, which is where all the neighbors have talked about the fire truck passing problem, that's only a 50-foot right-of-way. I believe the city's standard right-of-way now is like 56 feet. So all I'm trying to say is that road was actually narrowed up at the time of development from what the standard was at the time. So just color and food for thought on that particular item. So I think I have a few slides here that I thought might come up. So density was an issue that came up. So if I just take the same geographical area and overlay it to the south on Deering Street, I think this slide kind of speaks for itself. Yes, there are drainage issues that these people have today. They would exist with or without development of this property. There is a pond on this property that's about 30% of the size of the blue pond that you see near Cumberland Road. So we'll be expanding our pond to accommodate all the drainage. I have a slide here and about 2 slides that'll talk about, or that'll kind of show how a typical lot gets developed and why there will be less water coming on to all of our neighbors post-development than there is currently today. There is no argument that portions of this property do sit higher than the folks down to the south on Deering Street. It is a range, I will tell you that. I don't know that it's quite 15 feet. I was able to walk the property yesterday. I did see, drainage swales. I did see drainage infrastructure. There have been concerns about maybe that's not adequate, but the fact of the matter is yes, they do have drainage infrastructure, and what we will do, and this will all be reviewed by the city's engineering department and then farmed out to, I believe, to a consultant as well with multiple sets of eyes, that we will comply with all the technical standards and the design standards as it relates to drainage and other infrastructure. So you see the exhibit on the screen here and the difference in how development would occur now versus 25 years ago. This wasn't exactly coming up, but I think it's pertinent to the conversation. The Deering Street portion of Spyglass does not have any common area. We have about 30% of our site is common area, so I just wanted to make that note as well. And then here's an image that very rudimentarily shows how drainage would work on a lot. So everything from the front of the house towards the street, that's going to flow towards the streets. If you're familiar with, the curbs and the drainage that goes along with a typical street design, you see the inlets and the curbs and all that stuff as you go up and down city streets. The street within this neighborhood would be no different. We would still have that infrastructure on the street itself. So any drainage that comes forward from the house would get collected in that portion of the drainage system. At the house, yes, there would be swales between the side yards, so that would help convey water. That is a natural and a standard designed feature as well. Going rear or towards the backyard, we would slope the drainage in the yard away from the house. We don't ever want to have water coming into the home. That's not good for the house itself. So there would be a rear yard swale. You kind of see that gray line towards the back of the screen right in here, and so that's a drainage swale. What that is it's where from the house to the back, it's sloped to get into this particular area. And then if you look imagine if this was 10 feet off of the property line from the folks to the north and to the south. So there would be a 10-foot common area in which we can talk about the landscaping on that in a minute. But where our lot line stops, we would actually slope it back to us to get into that swale. So essentially, we're designing it in a way to trap the water into our system. And by nature of doing that, it's typically 90 to 95% of water that does not leave a site post-development. So we think there's a significant improvement actually with development of this property as it relates to drainage on the adjacent parcels. Now, is it gonna go away? Absolutely not. Any drainage problems that exist as a result of the design of their own systems would remain. But as far as water leaving our site, excessively leaving our site and impacting our surrounding neighbors, that would not occur, for this typical reason, so. Talked about drainage, we talked about runoff. The public notice, so I'll take that one. So we held a neighbor meeting. There were 2 letters that went out for the neighbor meeting. There was an individual mailing that came out by the city for this meeting. This is the public hearing that was required notice, which Pete, you talked about earlier. So we did have, our first letter did have an error as it related to the day and the date. So it said something like Monday, March 13th, when March 13th was a Thursday. So the day that people started receiving these letters, I received no less than 10 calls, and that continued for a handful of days prior. So we were able to communicate, we were able to correct that. We sent out a new letter, and I did speak with a large number of people that inquired about the actual date just to confirm it. So when we talk about why certain people didn't get notice or why the HOA didn't get notice, we mailed out letters from the list the Hamilton County provides us to comply with all the state and local laws. So there's that particular issue.
And we're going to give you about 30 more seconds.
That's fine, no problem. And then I think the last biggest thing that everyone talked about was the trees and the landscaping. Around the perimeter of the site, we have agreed to a minimum 10-foot common area. And to the extent that we can preserve any existing trees that are not dead, dying, diseased, or invasive, that we will try to do that. Provided that we can't, we have established tree minimums in the ordinance. And then just a note for everyone, residential to residential within the city of Fishers, there is no buffer required. So we're trying to be good neighbors. We understand that there's challenges and issues here. We understand that folks have been in their homes for 20 to 30 years and that this is going to be a change, but we're trying to do everything we can to soften that and make that a good transition. So with that, happy to answer any questions that you all have.
Thank you.
I have one question, Rex. So to Brad's point about the setbacks in the side yards, is that going to happen in between every house? They're going to be at the absolute minimums?
So typically, let me just do
So what I'm saying is I know the answer to
Yeah.
my question. So depending upon the house type that you put on a lot and the house type they put on another lot, you cannot be any closer than the 7 feet which you guys are asking for in the PUD.
Correct.
All right. So, but if you get a house type and a house type, could it be more than that?
Yes, it could.
And it really depends until you get the house that you're going to build on it. When you get the person who wants to make a point, say, I want that house, I want to put it on that lot, then you're going to know. Could it be 10? Could it be 15?
Yes.
Okay. It's not all just going to be, because you're not doing a style house throughout the entire neighborhood, which is a little more reminiscent of Del Webb, quite frankly, right, where they're very similar in size and scope, right, where you're getting that minimum at every single level. And I'm saying that because I'm in a neighborhood where there was, minimum square foot or setbacks there, and the variety of setbacks as I go through my neighborhood varies all over the place depending upon the house that you put on that lot.
That's correct.
Okay.
And then maybe a little too much, but based on where the driveway has to go, whether it's on the left side or the right side, and the handing of the home, that will change, the location of the home within the lot as well. So.
Thank you. Any other questions from board members? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. At this time, I will,
Can I make one clarification real quick?
real quick.
Yes. So I know Christie's slide, with the comp plan correction, so we'll correct that. It does comply with the comprehensive plan. I also do believe it said that it would go to council in the March meeting. I anticipate that would be the April meeting at the earliest. So just wanted to make that clarification.
That's correct. Thank you. At this time, if there's any additional comments, we'll entertain those. If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to send an unfavorable recommendation to the city council.
We have a motion by Brad. Do we have a second? We have a second by Kim. Roll call, Kay?
Yeah, yes, Mr. Dreamer. Yes. Mr. Fain. Yes. Ms. Logan. Yes. Mr. Peterson.
No.
Mr. Moulter.
No.
Ms. Stoller.
No.
Ms. Frazier. Mr. Stevenson.
Yes. As I tally, it's 4-4, Kay, is that correct?
4-4, that's correct.
So that basically goes to council with no recommendation? Okay. Very good. I'm fine sending it to council with no recommendation.
Thank
Unless
you.
anybody else wants to jump in there.
That is the ruling, so it will go to council with no recommendation from the Plan Commission. Thank you. Yeah, sir, we're in a public meeting, so we can't address you at this point. We will go to the next agenda item. And that agenda item is case number TA-25-2, Unified Development Ordinance Update, Part 1. And we will have Ross Hillary.
I will pause if anyone wants to leave. If not, you're free to stay. I appreciate it if you do.
Ross, are you?
Yeah, no doubt.
It was very tall, sorry. Good evening, Ross Hillary, Director of Planning for the City of Fishers. Before you is two different text amendments. We are updating our UDO. We took this in front of council in two different chunks, but I'm presenting it to you tonight as two different text amendments. I have a slide for each chapter. If you guys, which you did, looked at your staff report in the agenda, there was probably 200 to 300 pages of updates on that. So I will go through that for you tonight. The first text amendment is updates to chapter 1, 3, 5, and 12. And I will say we have been working on this UDO update, which is our zoning code, for well over a year. So I appreciate you guys being with me tonight. Section in chapter 1, which is our introduction section, we added additional language promoting energy efficient developments, new languages discussing around open space as it relates to mental health. We've relocated our measurements chapter to make it easier for staff. And then we've also updated some of our building types in Article 1.5. In Chapter 3, which is our zoning district chapter, we have reduced the front setback in R1 through R5 to match the last decade of development patterns, which is a 25-foot front yard setback. Parcels adjacent to Geis would allow a larger impervious surface. This relates to a decade plus of BZA cases as well. And then as it relates to our CELO commercial low impact, we have added an additional buffer yard section called infill development, requiring at minimum a 10-foot buffer for infill developments. Chapter 5, which is our use regulations, we have added additional sections as it relates to accessory and temporary uses. We've expanded the definition of our senior living section, which includes senior living, assistant, independent, and nursing to better match the industry. We've added information around EV charging stations as an accessory use that is relating to companies putting forward EV chargers with us not having regulations to work with them. We provided some direction around solar energy, wind energy, and electric vehicle standards. We have updated our permitted use table, and two large items that went before council as well is the removal of vehicle fuel stations or gas station from C2 and C3 by right. So it's only permitted by right in I1, which are industrial. And then also the removal of car washes from the C3 commercial district, which would also be allowed by right in I1. We've also expanded the use category for agricultural and animal definition. And last, chapter 12, which is our definitions. You can see here we have added 56 new definitions. That helps staff at all levels. New definitions around bioswales, electric vehicles, place of worship updated, and short-term rentals as it relates to verbos and Airbnbs. We've edited 19 of our definitions, and we have removed 12 definitions, likely because they were replaced with a new definition. That is the first section of this. I'm happy to answer any questions on that. Staff does recommend a favorable recommendation from Plan Commission, as we believe these updates are consistent with our comprehensive plan. And we do anticipate this going to council on April 21st. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Ross. Any questions for Ross at this time?
Just another comment. Oh, thank you. For the 9 years that I've been a city councilman, every subdivision's been a PUD. Nobody has developed R2, 3, 4, 5. Why do we even have R zoning? Why don't we get rid of it? For 9 years, we've never enforced our own ordinance. 9 years that I've sat here. Why do we have it? Why don't you get rid of it and just let the developers develop what they want? That's what we do. Just my opinion. 9 years that I've sat here, I haven't seen an R2, 3, 4, 5.
Brad, I appreciate exactly what you're saying, and I'm not saying you're wrong in any case whatsoever. However, we're dealing with this item here, and I would prefer that we take that offline in a study group, because I would support looking out in a study group. You know, if there's no other questions on these, I would like to make a favorable recommendation.
Well, before we do that, I believe we have to open it up for the public hearing. So at this time, I will open the public hearing. If there's anyone who wants to address this issue, please approach the podium. Please share your name and your address. Okay. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing.
My motion still stands.
And we have a motion by Pete. Second. We have a second. And this is on the part 1. Kay, roll call, please.
Where did my second come from?
Came from Bruce.
Bruce?
Oh, we had 2.
Okay. Mr. Dreamer? Yes. Mr. Fain?
Yes.
Ms. Logan?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Moulter? Yes. Ms. Stoller?
Yes.
Ms. Frazier? And Mr. Stevenson?
Yes, the motion does carry. Now I will call case number TA-25-3, another Unified Development Ordinance update, but this is for part 2, and we have Ross again for the staff.
Yes, Ross Hillary, Director of Planning and Zoning. Before you is our updates to chapter 4, 6, and 8, and I will be brief and direct. And chapter 4 discusses our overlay zoning district. We are adding additional language and definition to our overlay zoning district. This is adjacent to I-69, which prohibits institutional uses. We are adding the definition about the total square footage of the building as it relates to a secondary use. So if a building is 150,000 square foot, a portion of that could be used as an institutional use. And so that is part of this definition update. As mentioned in the last one, we've relocated our measurements and calculations to chapter 6. We've updated information around accessory uses as it relates to solar and EV charging. We have an alternative material for trash enclosures. So if a business is already here and they are non-compliant with their dumpster enclosure, we allow an alternative material dictated by staff. We have also updated our roof pitch section as it relates to architecture, And this is again based on the last several years of BZA cases where more modern homes which do not have pitched roofs are brought forward before BZA. And so we've updated and allowed for a flat roof option. Chapter 6 as well, we've expanded our language around landscape standards. We have added a section around tree canopy coverage for parking lots and commercial and multifamily developments, as well as updated our language around our retention and detention ponds as it relates to landscaping. We've also updated information around our parking and loading standards. We have in the past relied on the federal government for ADA regulations. We have now incorporated that directly into our own code. We also have EV charging standards, which was an action item out of our comprehensive plan that you guys oversee, as well as updates to our drive-through design standards. And lastly, in our signage section, we've updated language as it relates to ground signs, wall signs, and the allowance for pole banners for institutional uses such as schools or churches. And in Chapter 8, which is our subdivision and PUD standards, which we do use if we do bring forward a PUD, we require open space standards for all developments, commercial and residential. And in the past, we really only had the language in the UDO that says you must have open space, but what does that mean? And so we've had to rely on staff to kind of say, you can do this, you can do that as it relates to activating the open space. We now in this have standards as it relates to what we expect to see. So this is a good example of, say, a neighborhood was coming forward. They have to have 20% open space. This is an example of our expectations of what that looks like. A pond or a grass lot does not equal open space to us. It must be activated and used by that neighborhood. Happy to answer any questions on that. Staff does recommend a favorable recommendation, and we do anticipate this going to council in April.
Thanks, Ross. Any questions for the staff? Seeing none, I
Make
will.
a motion, make a favorable recommendation.
Well, first of all, I'll open the public hearing once again.
Keep forgetting about that part.
If
Been
there's
in Houston for the last 3 days, I want to go home. Can't tell.
If there's anyone here from the public who wants to address this matter, please approach the podium and share your name and your address with us. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Now we will entertain that motion. We have a motion by Pete.
Second.
We have a second. We'll give this to Selena. Kay, roll call, please.
Mr. DeReamer. Yes. Mr. Fain.
Yes.
Ms. Logan. Yes. Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Moulter. Yes. Ms. Stoller.
Yes.
Ms. Frazier. Mr. Stevenson.
Yes, the motion does carry. The last agenda item for the public hearing today is the Fishers Crossing Lot 3 allocation area expansion, and we have Lawrence Sumner with the staff to present for us.
Hi, Lauren Summers with the Controller's Office. I'll make it quick. Back in February, you guys met to approve the crossings allocation area. As that happened, the project agreement was changed, so there's an additional project, or not an additional project, additional parcels that need to be added to the allocation area. So what you're voting for is that the parcels included match with the rest of the project. And if you approve, it will go back to council and back to the redevelopment commission. So that's all you're doing. It's just we're adding more parcels, but we have to go through the whole process again.
Okay.
Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Lawrence. Any questions? Okay. Once again, I'll open the public hearing for this matter. If there's anyone from the public who wants to address this matter, please approach the podium and please share with us your name and your address. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing.
Motion to make a favorable recommendation to council.
We have a motion by Pete.
Second.
A second by Selena. Roll call, Kay, please.
Mr. DeReamer. Yes. Mr. Fain.
Yes.
Ms. Logan. Yes. Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Moulter.
Yes.
Ms. Stoller.
Yes.
Ms. Frazier. Mr. Stevenson.
Yes,
Thank you.
the motion carries. Thank you. Ross, any staff communications first?
We currently have one item in our schedule for the May Plan Commission, so I do anticipate having that. So if there's anyone who's not available, please let us know. Thank you.
Thank you. Any summary of council actions?
Not tonight.
Okay, thank you. I'll entertain a motion to
Motion to
adjourn. We are adjourned. Thank you.